In this Cricut tutorial for beginners, I am showing you how you can quickly and easily burn a photo or a design into wood without a wood burning kit and without a branding iron, but primarily with the help of a Cricut cutting machine as well as a few other supplies. And oh, by the way, in the process, we're also making a super cute DIY Christmas door hanger. So let's get crafty. Hey, I'm Michael from the Mr. Crafty Pants YouTube channel, where I show you tips, tricks, and tutorials on how to use and master your Cricut cutting machine. And y'all, today I am partnering up with Design Bundles to bring you all a Cricut tutorial that is step-by-step and easy enough to understand for Cricut beginners. But there's also plenty of tips, tricks, and techniques wrapped up in this video that would even be super beneficial for someone who's been doing this whole Cricut thing for years now. So be sure that you stay tuned until the very end of this episode, because I promise you, you do not want to miss out on a single Cricut minute. Now, as far as the things that we're going to need to make all this Cricut magic happen, well, first things first, we're obviously going to need some wood, right? And I'm using this 14-inch wood round. I actually got this from Woodpecker's Crafts. I will list and link everything, and I do mean everything that I use or mention, down in that description box below. I'll also go through and see if I can find any promo codes for you all as well. And if I can find any, I'll list those for you all down there as well. Now for this process, we're also going to need to create a stencil to actually create our wood burning effect. And for that, I like to use just regular permanent adhesive vinyl. You do want to use something that is of a relatively high quality. You don't want to use anything that's real flimsy or thin. Something nicer like the StarCraft HD permanent adhesive vinyl. This is my personal favorite as far as permanent adhesive vinyl goes. This stuff is amazing and it's super affordable. Along with our permanent adhesive vinyl, we're also going to need some transfer tape. And this stuff, y'all, I've literally tried every transfer tape on the market, I feel like, and this stuff reigns supreme. This is like magic right here. Again, all this stuff will be listed and linked for you down in that description box below. Now you may be curious how we're actually going to go about burning anything into the wood. And this right here, y'all, is the secret ingredient. It is just regular ammonium chloride. You all can get this on Amazon. It's really inexpensive, to be honest with you. And I'm going to show you exactly how to mix this and how to apply it, because to be honest with you all, I have went through so many tests, so much trial and error to try to get this to be an exact science for you guys. And I feel like I finally cracked the code. And the main code here in all this is this thicket right here. Adding this in to the ammonium chloride solution, it makes it like a thicker consistency where your solution is not going to run and leak underneath of your permanent adhesive vinyl stencil. It just makes the entire process so much easier, so much better all the way around. So I highly recommend a food thickener like this one as well. Now, to actually activate our ammonium chloride solution for it to cause that burning effect, we are going to need a high source of heat. And so for that, I'm actually using a heat gun. Now, it doesn't have to be anything fancy whatsoever. Mine has two settings, and the high setting gets to 495 degrees Celsius. So as long as your heat gun can get somewhere around there, we should be good. However, I will say this, a hair dryer / blow dryer will not work for this. It just simply does not get hot enough. Now this part is totally optional, but if you want to spruce up your door hanger, you can do so relatively easy and very cheap. I'm talking like this pre-made bow that I picked up at Walmart, as well as this little sprigs of pine and berry and pine cones, things of that nature. I'm just going to add this in with our door hanger as well. Again, it's totally optional. If you're not a bow maker, then this will be a great option for you as well, something like this. And I'm actually going to show you how to make this look just a little bit better than what it currently does. You're also going to need a cutting machine. Now, here's the thing. I personally specialize in Cricut cutting machines. However, you can do this exact same project no matter the cutting machine you have, as long as your specific cutting machine can work with SVG cut files. And speaking of SVG cut files, well, I am getting mine from designbundles.net. So let's jump on there and I'm going to show you the exact one that I'm using and how to download it. Now y'all, I am obsessed with this Believe in the Magic of Christmas SVG cut file. I love it, and I think it's gonna look so freaking good on our door hanger. Plus, it's relatively inexpensive as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that by just selecting Add to Cart. And I'm just gonna come right over here to the right-hand side of the page and click this little cart icon, and then select Checkout Now. Now here's the thing, I do have a designbundles.net plus membership, and I started out with a free trial on it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I love that you get these little plus credits that you can use towards actually getting fonts or SVG files, things of that nature. And I also love that you actually get discounts off of other SVG files that you purchase. For example, this was $3.50, but with my designbundles.net plus membership, it's now $2.98, which is just amazing. Thank you, Design Bundles. All right, so I'm gonna come over here and select Continue to Payment. Now, just from my experience talking to my subscribers, a lot of people in the past have believed that you have to use store credit to make any purchases from Design Bundles, and that's just simply not the case. Now, if you do use store credit, you do get a discount when you do so. However, if you don't want to do that, you just want to bypass that, you can also check out with PayPal, which is this option right here, or you could check out with your debit card or credit card, which is this option right here. So I'm actually going to check out with my debit card or credit card. So I'm going to select that. Scroll right down here and then select Pay with Selected Card. All right, so right here, it's just saying thank you for your purchase, and then it's giving you the option of downloading your products. However, I will say this, I know some people feel the pressure to download immediately, and they kind of struggle trying to find the storage space to place their file. You do not have to go through that right away. Design Bundles actually stores this for you under your account, under purchases. So anytime that you want to go back and download that, you can go back and download it. But I'm gonna go ahead and download this since we are using it today. And it's just taking us to this page right here, the purchases page. So as we can see, here is our file. And if we come over here towards the right-hand side of the page, it says download files. So I'm gonna select that. And here is the files for us to download. It's the zip file right here. So I'm just gonna select that. And since I am using the Chrome browser, it went ahead and downloaded right down here towards the bottom left-hand corner of the page, just for convenience. However, if you're not using a Chrome browser, this will just end up wherever your downloads folder is. So to unzip this, all I have to do is just select it. And here is our file right here. So I'm gonna double click that. And as we can see, it comes with different types of files. However, the file that we're interested in using today is the SVG file right here. So I'm actually gonna come over here to Cricut Design Space. And I'm gonna come over here to the left-hand side of the page and click on Upload. And then I wanna select Upload Image. And then I wanna select Browse. And here is our file right here, the Believe in the Magic of Christmas SVG file. So I'm gonna select that and then select Open. Here's where you can just basically save this however you wanna save it. You can also add in tags if you want. So I can put in here Christmas, Magic, Believe. And then we can come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Save. All right, so as we can see right here under our recently uploaded images, here is our file. So I'm actually gonna select that, and I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Insert Images. There we go. All right, so this is just a little bit too big for our screen right now. So I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom left-hand corner and zoom out just a hair. So let's take a look over here at the right-hand side of the page under the Layers panel. And as you can see, there's a lot of different layers going on here. And the thing is, we don't need all of those layers. We're actually using this design to create a stencil, right? It's just one single layer, not multiple colors, not anything like that. So what I'm actually gonna do is come up here towards the top, make sure that this group is selected, which it is, and I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Weld. And basically what Weld does is it basically merges or fuses all of those layers into one solid layer, essentially one solid image. All right, so now what we need to do is actually resize this to fit onto our wood round, onto our door hanger. So what I'm actually going to do is come over here and create a template. And I'm doing that by selecting shapes, and then I'm going to select circle. All right, there we go. Now the circle is going to be our template. Other than actually being able to resize our image to fit perfectly onto our wood round, it's not going to have any bearing on our final project. Essentially, the color of the circle doesn't amount to a hill of beans when it's all said and done in terms of our project. However, if you want to get an idea of what your end goal or what your end project is going to look like, what you can do is come up here towards the top left-hand corner, click on this little color swatch, And then we can change this to brown. However, this is a lighter color brown. So what we could do is actually select that brown. And then we move this little circle right here, wherever we want it to be in all these colors. And something like that's a little bit more accurate. So let's do that. And again, the color of this is not necessary. It's only really helpful if you want to get a visual of what your end project is going to look like. But as for right now, I'm actually going to resize this to be the same size as our actual wood round. So to do that, I'm coming up here towards the top of the canvas, right up here where it says size, and I'm going to change the width of that to 14 for 14 inches. And since that padlock is locked, it went ahead and changed that height to be the same size as well, which is perfect because this is now the exact size of our wood round, right? So let's go ahead and right click this and then select send to back. And if you really want to take this one step further, you could even change the color of your design to match what it's going to look like once you actually burn your wood, which will be closer to the black side. So let me come up here and select this little color swatch again, and then let's just switch this to black. All right, so as far as this design goes, obviously as of right now, it's too big for a wood round. So if we had cut this out the way it is, we would have been out of luck. So what I'm actually gonna do is shrink this down a little bit by grabbing this little resize handle right here, and then just dragging that inwards. Now we do have to keep in mind that it's not only our design that's going on our wood round, right? We're also putting the bow, we're also putting like little sprigs of berry and pine and all that fun stuff. So we kind of have to make sure that we have enough room for that as well without it actually blocking out our design. I'm personally thinking something right about that size would be perfect. So let's go ahead and delete out our template because we don't need that anymore. So I'm gonna select that and then select this little red X right here. And now I'm gonna come up here towards the top right-hand corner and select Make It. All right, so this is our mat preview screen where we can actually see how our design is gonna be cut out onto our mat. So this is gonna be a stencil, right? And we don't really want our design to be butted up right against the edge of our stencil. So what I can actually do is click on our design. And as you can see, here's this little blue square that shows up around the design once you click on it. And I'm actually gonna drag this as close to center as possible. So by us placing our design right there smack dab in the middle, that essentially means that our design is going to cut it out smack dab in the middle of this sheet of vinyl, which also means that we're gonna have plenty of space around our design to protect our surface from getting any of this ammonium chloride solution anywhere that we don't want it to be. All right, so now I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Continue. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my Cricut Maker. And again, you could use any cutting machine with this. It could be a Cricut Explore Air 2, a Cricut Joy, it could be a Silhouette, it could be a Brother Scan and Cut. You get the idea. All right, so this is where we set our material cut settings at. Now, I'm using the StarCraft HD permanent adhesive vinyl. And whenever I cut this out, what I always like to use is the premium vinyl option. Now, real quick, if you're using a Cricut Explore device and you don't see this option, if you don't see this page, just turn your dial over to custom and then this should pop up for you. But for the premium vinyl option, I'm gonna come over here and select Browse All Materials. And then I'm just gonna do a quick search for premium. And then I'm gonna select premium vinyl right here. And then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Done. All right, so whenever I'm removing my vinyl from my mat, what I like to do is actually flip my mat over and peel the mat away from the vinyl instead of the other way around. It just really helps prevent any damage from occurring to your material. All right, so as for weeding all of this out, we're basically weeding backwards essentially, because remember, we're creating a stencil and not a decal. So everything that we would normally leave behind onto the backing paper, we're actually removing. It'll probably make a little bit more sense once I actually start doing it, because again, remember, we have to think in terms of a stencil. So I'm actually going to grab a little lint roller, which I love to keep on my desk. And as I'm weeding everything out, I just love to weed all the little bits and bobs of vinyl right on there as I go. This is so freaking cool. So now we're actually going to apply our transfer tape. And again, this is the medium tack transfer tape. Literally, I feel like sent from heaven above. Like, I love this stuff so much. All right, so I'm just pulling off some of this transfer tape, sticky side facing up, and then I'm gonna grab our stencil and then place it face down onto the transfer tape. You don't have to do it this way. I've been doing it this way more and more here lately though, and I'm really liking it. I just feel like it's a little bit easier. And I'm scrubbing my squeegee and just really burnishing the transfer tape down to the vinyl. And then what I'm going to do is just flip this over and then peel the backing paper off of the vinyl and off the transfer tape. Alright, so before we apply our vinyl stencil to our wood round, what I want to do with this specific wood surface is actually sand it down. Truth be told, it's not the most smooth surface ever. It feels pretty porous, and I don't want there to be any chance whatsoever of our solution, our ammonium chloride solution, leaking and spreading out underneath of our stencil, because that would basically just ruin the entire project. So I'm just grabbing some 220 grit sandpaper and then just sanding over this really well. All right, so now I'm just gonna go wipe this down with a damp towel and then let it fully dry before I apply my stencil to it. Now, this part is pretty important. Whatever wood round that you're using, it needs to be unsealed. Essentially, the ammonium chloride needs to be able to touch the wood fibers. So that way, whenever it does dry and we actually apply our heat gun to it, it's actually going to burn properly or do that chemical burn properly. But I'm gonna go ahead and just grab our stencil. Now, this may seem completely weird to some of you all. If you're a subscriber of my channel, probably not so much because I use this all the time. I'm actually grabbing some parchment paper, and I actually did a whole video on my channel on actually how to perfectly layer vinyl with parchment paper. But I also believe that parchment paper is a phenomenal way to perfectly apply your vinyl to your surface. So I'm just laying out my parchment paper onto the wood round, and then just applying our stencil or vinyl right over top of it. And essentially, the parchment paper is not going to allow the vinyl to actually stick down to the surface. And also the vinyl isn't going to stick to the parchment paper. Now, I have heard some people say that whenever they use like a cheaper version of parchment paper, like a dollar store version, then they actually have issues with their vinyl sticking to it. However, if you're using something like Reynolds or other types of brands, then you're not gonna have much of an issue at all. All right, so as for the placement of our design onto our wooden round, I personally do not want mine to be perfectly centered on the wood round because, again, remember what I'm doing with mine is applying the bow and then the twigs, the berries, all that stuff, right? Here's the thing. If we keep this perfectly centered, well then that bow and like the little twigs and stuff is gonna be covering up part of our design, and obviously we don't want that. So I'm actually gonna keep my design a little bit lower on the wood round. All right, so I think something just like that should work out perfectly. So I'm actually going to go ahead and then just lay down my vinyl up here at the top where there's not any parchment paper underneath of it. And then while holding this down up here, I'm gonna lift up the vinyl down here and then pull out our parchment paper. I'm then going to grab our squeegee tool, and as we're laying it down, I'm going to be squeegeeing it down to minimize any air bubbles. Now I'm just grabbing a corner of this transfer tape and then slowly pulling it back. You just want to make sure that none of the little bits and pieces of vinyl is wanting to come up with it. All right, so for our ammonium chloride solution that's going to make all this come together, I'm actually going to be using 1 tablespoon of the ammonium chloride itself, along with 5 teaspoons of the thicket, and half a cup of hot water. So you really just want to make sure that you mix this up really, really well and then let it sit for about a minute or so while it thickens up. And now whenever we're applying this to our wood, it should have a very thick consistency, something similar to this right here. And again, that's something that you want because otherwise, what can definitely happen, and has happened to me many times in the past, is if it's too liquidy, it's actually going to leak and spread underneath of our stencil. It's actually going to ruin your surface, and yeah, there's no hope of saving it at that point. So you want it to be on the thicker side, which is why the thicket is so important. Now also, here's another thing. Whenever you're applying this to your surface, to your stencil, you want to go very thin. You don't want to glop it on at all. You actually want to like just pick up a little bit with like a paintbrush like this, and then just wipe off some of the excess on the side of the bowl or whatever you're using. Now we are just gonna let this fully dry, and it may appear to have a very thin white film over top of it once it does dry. Don't worry about that. If that is the case, that is pretty normal. Now I'm sure I'll also get plenty of questions asking if you can do this process to stained wood. And I will say this, if it's a light stain, like a thin stain, where the ammonium chloride can still touch the wood fibers, then by all means, absolutely yes. However, if you're wanting to do something like this over top of paint, that's not gonna work. Where the magic happens with this is where the ammonium chloride solution meets with the wood fibers, and then here comes in the high heat, like from a heat gun. All right, so this ammonium chloride solution is now completely dry to the touch. So I'm going to very, very carefully start peeling off this vinyl stencil. All right, so now we're gonna take this outside and apply the heat gun to it and watch that magic happen. Now keep in mind, you do wanna wear some safety goggles and a safety mask just to be on the safe side with this. So I really found that whenever you're pointing your heat gun towards your surface, towards your design, it really helps to hold your heat gun at an angle. It can take a little while for the design to actually start to burn into the wood, so just be patient and keep your heat gun moving. All right, so we have our design all burned into our wood, and y'all, it is looking so flippin' good. But before we do our final reveal, I wanna show you real quick how I'm gonna go about dressing it up. So first things first, with this bow right here, I actually got this bow pre-made at Walmart, really inexpensive actually, but I wanna actually just customize it just a little bit. First things first though, I'm actually gonna cut off the tails of the bow. Now the reason I cut these off is because if we actually hung the bow onto the door hanger the way that I want them to go, well, these little tails will be hanging down right in front of our design, and obviously we can't have that. Now these are still going on our door hanger, just in a little bit of a different kind of way. Before we even get to that part, I'm just not loving the rounded edges of these little tails. Do you even call these tails? I'm not sure, but today they're called tails. So I'm actually going to sharpen these up just a little bit by just folding this in half, and then just trimming that off, just like so. All right, so now I'm gonna grab my door hanger real quick, and I'm just gonna position these going in opposite directions, and I'm just gonna grab my staple gun and then just staple these down. Now I'm just grabbing some little decorative picks. These are also from Walmart for like 97 cents. All this is just so affordable, you guys. Like, I love this. And now we are finally going to staple this bow on top. Y'all, I am obsessed with how this door hanger turned out, but you know what really matters here is what you all thought of it. So if you all liked today's video, or if you learned something new, let us know by stamping that like button, as well as dropping a comment down in that comment section below. Both of those things help us out tremendously here on YouTube, and it also lets us know what type of content that you'd like to see more of. While you're at it, if you are new around here to this channel, do not forget to stamp that subscribe button and then ring that bell for all of the notifications, because you, my friend, do not want to miss out on a single crafty minute that's coming out of this channel. I promise you that. Thank you all so much for watching today's episode. It truly, truly, truly means the world to us. And until next time, stay crafty.